everyone, welcome to Thorough Newspaper Analysis, which is presented to you by LawSikho. So today we will be discussing 3 articles. The first article is from The Hindu, which is titled as Virus Variant. So this talks about the new variant of the COVID virus, which has been noticed and found out in the United Kingdom. And it is believed that it is many a times stronger and easily transmissible as compared to the earlier version that we have. So we'll be discussing about it. The second article is again from The Hindu, which is titled as Lessons from Monash. So this article talks about the pros and cons and what steps we should be taking while bringing in the international educational universities and institutions in the Indian higher education system, as has been proposed by the National Education Policy 2020. And the third article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as New Welfarism of India's Right. So this basically talks about the survey which has recently been done by the National Family Health Survey. So what are the nitty-gritties and what are the outcomes that have been brought, and what is the pattern of the current status or symbolism of welfarism has been discussed in this article. And finally, we have the Newsflash for our prelims exam. So if you're also preparing for judicial services examination, you can definitely have a look at the Lord of the Courses, which is the judiciary test prep course from LawSikho. The link to this course is there in the description box, and from the landing page, you can also download free study material. With this, let's see what is the multiple choice question from yesterday's discussion. Himalayan trillium recently seen in news is a kind of, so your options are herb, butterfly, endemic goat species, or marijuana. So you can write down your answer in the comment section below. So this is the descriptive question for the day. Discuss the pros and cons of bringing in international educational institutions to Indian higher education. So once we're done with today's article, you'll definitely be able to write down the pros and cons of this very thing. Let's discuss the first article for the day, which talks about the new variant of the COVID-19 virus. So as we said, recently, United Kingdom imposed strict restrictions in Greater London and much of Southeast England after a new variant of COVID-19 was found to be causing an increased number of cases. Now, since the time, as we know, that the COVID-19 has hit the entire world, so the mutation, basically mutation is when there is any kind of change in the very, formation or the very kind of structure of any particular thing, that is referred to as a mutation. So since the time the COVID-19 virus has been studied by the scientists, there have been some changes that have taken place in the formation or the position of the COVID-19 virus. And the recent variant of this mutation of COVID-19, which has been noticed in the United Kingdom, so it has been said by the scientists, though it is yet under, a lot of trials are going on regarding this, but it is being said that this new variant of the COVID-19 is quite stronger than the original one or the one which we commonly are facing in the other parts of the world. And also it is easy to transfer from one person to another. So this actually would increase the possibility of catching the virus. So this is, let's study about this variant. So this is the first variant under the investigation, and it has 23. So this is the name, and this is the exact mutation, N501Y, but specifically you do not need to remember it for your exam. Just that, maybe just you should keep it in mind that this number can come into like, what is this actually? So it might be, your options might be given like it's a number of missile or any kind of new, any kind of other satellite or space innovation or something. So you should remember this is the name of one new variant of the COVID-19 virus. So COVID-19 Genomics of a UK consortium, it has said that the variant has been growing in frequency since November 2020 and is responsible for increasing proportion of the SARS-CoV-2 cases in UK. Now, as we know that many countries in this world have been seeing the second hype and new lockdowns, again and again the lockdowns have been brought in or imposed in various countries because the cases of COVID-19 were again increasing to a large extent. And in this regard, even in the United Kingdom, new cases and greater number of cases have been witnessed now, and one of the greatest reasons for it is to be construed as the new this new variant of the SARS-CoV-2. And based on the modeling, it has been found out that it is 70% more transmissible. Now, by that we mean that it has 70% greater chances of being transferred from the infected person to another person, which ultimately increases the very difficulty of curbing down or finishing this very virus. So let's see that what would be the effects of the vaccines on this particular variant of the virus. So it is said that it is unlikely that the variant would make the COVID vaccine less effective due to the following reasons. So this is something that we should really be, we can take a sigh of relief, at least for now, that the particular vaccines that we are seeing in the race currently that might be the potential vaccines for COVID-19. So these vaccines, it is possible that they would be equally efficient on this variant of COVID-19 mutation as well, due to the following reasons. Firstly, the vaccines produce antibodies against many regions of the spike protein. Now, what happens is, if we try to study, so this as we know, that this is the general, how this is how the COVID-19 virus looks, and these are these spike proteins. Now, as you can see, these look like spikes or thorns on the outer covering of the SARS-CoV-2 virus. So what happens is that it is said that this mutation, this new variant, is actually making its identity on the spike protein, this outer area of the COVID virus. But what we have good in hand is that the vaccines produce antibodies against many regions of the spike protein. So all in all, it is very much like we can expect that these vaccines would be, they will effectively be able to curb down this new variant of COVID-19 as well. And also, this has T killer cell immunity. Now, by T cells, or they're also known as T killer cells at times, so it is considered that any vaccine that has these T cells is considered to be a very strong vaccine, and it has a long-lasting effect as well. And all the vaccines that we are seeing in the race, now be it the Pfizer vaccine or AstraZeneca or various other like Moderna or the other vaccines, these are all the ones that have these T cell immunity endowed into themselves. But the vaccines may require minor tweakings if virus accumulates more mutations. So yes, of course, there might be some kinds of changes that might be needed to be brought in the vaccines if in case there is greater accumulation of this virus. So as we know, we've discussed this, and these are the some vaccines, as we just took the name of AstraZeneca, Moderna, Pfizer, and Gamaleya as a Sputnik 5, which is from Russia. So these are the all vaccine contestants that we have right now. So let's see the second article for the day, which talks about international campuses in India. Now, for this, we need to understand that the National Education Policy 2020, which has actually, in the real sense, and at least till now in the theory, has the potential to change the Indian education system, now be it the primary or the higher education, or the the middle school education system too. So it has the potential to change it in a positive sense, and this change can be brought in a drastic manner, like positively. But for that, we need to make sure that if in case whatever steps we are taking, so they should be such that can actually accommodate with the existing system, and something that we can work upon and build to a better level. Like for this example, we can take that the National Education Policy provides that we should be bringing in more and more foreign institutions, and as in those institutions which are at least in the top 100 rankings of the world. And these higher education institutions, universities or campuses should be brought in India, should collaborate with the Indian higher education system, and then which will actually give a world-class education to our students as well. And also it will give a better exposure to our students. But this article very appropriately says that it is not something that we can, just bring and keep into Indian higher education system. We need to do some changes before we bring it into our own system. Just like we can take a very simple example, like we took various provisions of our constitution as well from various different countries of the world. But it was not literally copy pasting or, just picking it from any country and putting it down in our constitution. Like, for example, we took the parliamentary system from Britain, but still we made sure that we do not have parliamentary sovereignty in India. So this is how we accommodate things as per our needs and as per the aspirations and requirements of our general people and the normal citizens that we have. Similarly, this article also says that if at all we plan to bring any kind of higher education systems in our country, so we should make sure that we are accommodating them as per the the education system or the outlook that we have for our education system. For this purpose, the author has mentioned the University of Monash as a very good example, which had been functioning in South Africa. So let's see that what are the international branch campuses. So basically, IBCs or the international branch campuses are the entity owned at least in part by foreign higher education provider, and they're operated in the name of the provider itself. And it provides entire academic program substantially on-site, leading to a degree awarded by foreign education provider. And there are a few models of the IBCs or the international branch campuses, like they're fully or partially. So it's not like that. There are different kinds of IBC models available. So either they can be fully or partially funded by the host government. Like for India, in our case, the host government would be we ourselves, the Indian government. Supported by the private organization. So any private organization in the country can also take part into it, and availing government facilities. And other model of IBC can also be functioning in collaboration with local partners. Then the current IBCs that we have in the world generally that we have. So more than 300 IBCs are functioning in 80 countries. So that is really proves that international branch campuses are a successful model to say. But of course, all these countries must have done some changes to them to accommodate as per their needs. So let's understand a few ground realities of the international branch campuses. So the public nature of a foreign university may not be reflected in its branch campus. So this is a very important thing that we need to understand, that the quality and the kind of nature that is existent in the head or in the main university of a particular kind, it is not obvious, or it is not always to be sure about that the same nature would also be projected in its branches as well. So we should be very careful about that too. A university in top 100 can also become a local private institutions through M&A. Challenge is that they're ensuring parity with the quality of programs offered at home campus. Domestic market demand influences course offerings, and there is a dependence on contract academic staffs and limitations in substituting existing institutions. So definitely there are a lot of things to be kept in mind. Like for example, if at all we bring any world-class institution into our higher education system, we also need to make sure that our very own indigenous or our own national institutions do not collapse, and they also maintain their quality. So just like we try to do with our domestic manufacturers and producers in the case of when we try to when we import something from any other country. So this is how we need to maintain a balance, and we need to accommodate it as per our higher education needs. With this, let's discuss the third article for the day, which talks about new welfarism of India's right. Basically, this article talks about the new system of welfarism that this government has particularly followed and adopted, and what have been the steps that this government has taken under in its own model of welfare state. Now, as we know that the very idea of welfare state, India has always been a welfare state since the independence of the country. And by welfare state, we mean that the government specifically would be taking proactive steps in order to bring social parity, equality, and opportunities to all the people equally in the entire society. And that is why India needs to be a welfare state, because as we know that the status of people, be it political status, civil status, economic or educational status, or any kind of status, is not at all equal in the country. And at least there must be a chance and opportunity given to every individual and citizen to gain that kind of life for himself or herself. And for that matter, the state government tries to provide welfare schemes and benefits. So all these schemes, like we have Mudra, and other schemes like we have benefit schemes like we have Manrega, etc. These are all welfare kind of schemes. So the recent release of the fifth round of the NFHS, which is the National Family Health Survey, provided reliable and independent evidence to access micro-development performance or program under the current government. So now let's understand that what has been the outlook of this government in prioritizing. So what are the priorities that have been taken by this government, and what are the things that have been left behind and need to be focused upon? So this new welfarism represents a very distinctive approach to redistribution and inclusion. So as we know that even distribution of resources is one of our DPSPs as well, and inclusive government is something that we all look forward to. But this government has taken a quite different approach to distributing these resources to the people and giving the social inclusion as well. How? It does not prioritize supply of public goods such as basic health and primary education. Now, as we know, that all the governments in most of the countries of this world, and even the predecessor governments of this government, had been primarily focusing upon the basic health and primary education services to the people. But on the contrary side, and unlikely, this government has not really prioritized on the supply of public goods such as these. Rather, it has entailed the subsidized public provision of essential goods and services, which are normally provided by the private players. So it has basically tried to provide those goods and services to the people which are generally, in the general scenario, provided by the private sector. Like we have the bank accounts, we have cooking gas lines, electricity, etc. So as we know that mostly in the earlier times, all of these services were provided by the private sector or the private players. But this government has taken a different approach, and it has tried that those services which were generally not very affordable and easily available to the poor people, especially in our country, like bank accounts and even cooking gas and electricity, this government has tried to make these things which were earlier available with difficulty to be available to the people at large through various schemes. Now, as we know that for cooking gas, we have the scheme which is called as the Ujjwala. And this actually assumes, so basically there is also a contradiction, or in a sense what we know as, what we call as a kind of irony that can be seen in this regard, is that this government has tried to provide those goods and services which are more tangible in nature. So by tangible, we mean that can be easily seen. Like for example, if a particular household is given any kind of cooking gas line, or it has electricity, or an individual has bank accounts, so that is very easily to be shown and to be counted as well. So in such regard, tangible goods and services are easier to provide as well, and they're easier to be calculated as well. Rather, on the other side, where we have intangible goods like health and primary education, it becomes a bit difficult, firstly, to provide to every individual at par, and secondly, to calculate and measure as well. So this is the irony that this government has been following at times. And there are examples of the tangible and intangible goods and services. Like for tangible, we have like building toilets. So like the government has taken up the task of building toilets in the rural areas for providing sanitation and to avoid open defecation in the open areas. So building toilets is firstly easier on the first hand, and secondly, it is very easy to count these toilets and write down in any kind of account book. Rather, in case of intangible goods and services like traditional government services such as education, it is difficult to define and measure. So that is why still the performance of this government post 2014 has seen improvements in the number of women with bank accounts, or the percentage of household with access to goods and services, and better access to sanitation as well. But the one thing that we majorly need to work into is avoiding child stunting, because malnutrition in India, as we know, is a very, very huge problem. And India, even in various international surveys as well, has also ranked very poor in providing nutrition to its children specifically. So we need to focus very much in this area. With this, let's see what do we have for news and flash today. Prime Minister to inaugurate India Science Festival today. So the Prime Minister will inaugurate the 6th India International Science Festival, which is done by the IISF, launched in 2015. So it will be held on the dates 22nd to 25th December. So it is the India's largest virtual science festival till date. So in general, it is not a virtual festival, but obviously due to COVID-19, this would be the largest virtual science festival. So the theme for 2020 is Science for Self-Reliant India and Global Welfare. Second, Status of Leopards in India 2018 report. So the Union Environment Minister has released the report. And as per the report, there were 8,000 leopards in 2014, and the largest number is in MP, Madhya Pradesh, then in Karnataka and Maharashtra. So this can be a very potential prelims question as to which state in India has the largest number of leopards. So it is Madhya Pradesh. And please do not get confused with the other similar species like tiger, lions, Bengal tiger, etc. This report is about the leopards. And Central India and Eastern Ghats have the highest number of leopards at 8,071. So in totality, these areas have the largest number of leopards. So this was all for the day. We hope it was a good and informative session for you all. If you want the slides or the PDF slides for this very discussion, you can join our Telegram group. So it is called as LawSikho Judiciary Prep Support Group Inner Circle. The link to this group is there in the description box below. And for further queries and information, you can definitely have a look at the website of LawSikho. Thank you so much.